It's 2 p.m. Manila time. I'd like to thank you for joining this webinar this afternoon. So I think we can already start. We have already around 60 participants in the Zoom room. So may I just request the organizers to tone down so that we can start. Okay, good afternoon and welcome everyone. This is the ASEAN University Network Ecological Education and Culture webinar on cultivating a sustainable lifestyle, which this afternoon focuses on engaging communities for food security and learning from the experience of the Advancement for Rural Kids, or ARC, a development organization in the Philippines. Good afternoon. I am Randy Tuanyo of the Ateneo Institute of Sustainability, and I will be your moderator for this afternoon's webinar. Before we start, can I just provide you with a few house rules and reminders? Please note that this program is being recorded on Zoom. All participants are muted automatically as they enter this meeting room. Throughout the session, kindly type your questions on the link provided by the tech team on the chat. I think you can see this link now. And there will be an evaluation survey at the end of the session. Requests for e-certificates may be made throughout the same form. As this afternoon session, we will actually first have a discussion with representatives of the ARC. And then later we will have breakout sessions to discuss the presentation made by the representatives of the ARC. Before we start, let me introduce to you to Dr. Asunta Koyekeng of the Ateneo Institute of Sustainability will be giving the opening remarks. Dr. Koyekeng is former Vice President of the Loyola Schools and was recently the Director of the Institute of Sustainability of the Ateneo de Manila University. Dr. Koyekeng.
Thank you so much, Randy, and good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon again to this webinar. Welcome to this AUN-EEC webinar on cultivating a sustainable lifestyle. As you probably have heard from our other activities, the AUN Thematic Network on Ecological Education and Culture promotes efforts to raise awareness on how we can all contribute to developing a sustainability mindset that informs the way we make decisions and the way we live. Today, we will learn about engaging communities for food security from the Advancement for Rural Kids, or ARC, an NGO that partners with local communities to address hunger and poverty. I am happy to welcome Ms. Ayesha Berayu, CEO of ARC, Mr. Adrian Bonifacio, Operations and Impact Director, and Ms. Odsa Leven, Relationship Officer at ARC, and one of my former students. I hope that this webinar will give you insights and inspiration to help other communities set up their own gardens for their vegetables and fruits, to foster an environment of camaraderie among their community members, and to engage them to build capacity toward food security. I would like to thank Ayesha, Ode, and Adrian in advance for taking time to share the experiences and ARC's initiatives with us. Thank you too to our moderator, Dr. Randy Tuanyo, who is our program manager, the Ateneo Institute of Sustainability's program manager for the SDGs. And of course, a big thank you to our AUN-EEC team, Kim Campos, Jean Hardalesa Mijares, Chris Castillo, and the LS Events team. Again, a warm welcome to all, and we hope you take away with you more ideas toward an ecological lifestyle and culture. I turn you over again to Dr. Tuanyo. Randy, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Koyekeng. That's you. Before we start, I'd like to introduce the three main speakers for our forum this afternoon. So let me, as Dr. Koyekeng said, that we have three very interesting, wonderful speakers in our webinar. So the first speaker this afternoon, all of them are from the ARC, is Ayesha Berayu. A successful investment backer, Ayesha reconnected with her roots in Capiz province in the Philippines when she was given a chance to restructure her family's small rice farm and make it organic. During one of her visits, she met and was inspired by a community's desire to invest in themselves. So in 2009, and fueled by the incredible results, she left the investment banking and co-founded the Advancement for Rural Kids, or ARC. ARC partners and creates a path with rural communities in the developing world, especially in the Philippines, to secure their food, kids' schooling, and also a self-sustaining future. Aisha is a multi-awarded leader, is a young global leader, a Shoka Fellow, and part of the World Economic Forum. And because of her, ARC has actually won awards for innovation and sustainable solutions from the Asian Development Bank, Nestle Corporation, and the United Nations Development Program. Our second speaker this afternoon, also from ARC, is Adrian Bonifacio. Adrian is the Director of Impact and Operations for ARC. He leads its operations on the ground, where he chases impact and drives its innovation 5-cent lunch program to scale. As a global shaper, he represented the Manila Hub in the World Economic Forum on ASEAN and pioneered Future Movers, the Hub's flagship programs. He is a master's degree graduate in marketing communications, and coupled with his experience in engaging with underprivileged communities, Adrian has a unique blend of expertise to go hand in hand with his deep passion for solving inequality. Our third but not least speaker is Aude Sullivan, who's a development professional specializing in environmental psychology and behavioral design. She works at ARC as a relationship officer, where she engages directly with community leaders to run Feedback, ARC's flagship program. This includes designing behavioral tools and workshops that gets the community to invest in and manage the program themselves. She secured her Bachelor's of Science in Environmental Science in Ateneo de Manila University and holds a specialized certificate in sustainability and behavioral change from the University of California, San Diego Extension. Ms. Sullivan also used to work at Tinelaban Foundation in Manolo Fortich, Bukidnon, a non-government organization dedicated to reforestation and improving the livelihoods of rural communities in northern Mindanao. So without further ado, I'd like to again, let's introduce and also give a warm round of applause to Aisha, Adrian, and Aude. So welcome, Aisha, Adrian, and Aude.
Thank you so much for the introduction.
Oh, Aude, you're muted.
There.
Can
Hello?
you hear me now?
Yes, Aisha, yeah. Yes,
You can? Great. Okay. Thank you, everyone. First, I want to say hello to everyone on this call, to the educators, the future makers, and the new friends. Magandang hapon, good afternoon. Before I get started, I want to thank our hosts, as well as Dina Liamzon, Ed Valenzuela, Joaquin Campos, Jean Mijares, the Ateneo Institute of Sustainability, and the ASEAN University Network on Ecological Education and Culture for inviting us to speak. It's an honor. I'm Ayesha Veriu, CEO of Advancement for Rural Kids. I am joined here today by my teammates, Adrian Bonifacio, who's ARC's badass Impact and Operations Director, and Aude Sullivan, one of our kick-ass relationship officers. Together, we want to share with you how you can solve hunger in just 5 weeks, sustainably, and for the good of the environment, and use your creativity and expertise to make an impact as early as today. So let's get started. The Philippines has very fertile land, yet 55 million people, or 64% of the population, are chronically food insecure, with farmers and fisher folks accounting for the majority of that. How is that the case? How is it possible that the people who are feeding us are unable to feed their families? First, we stop growing the food we eat in our backyards, in our farms, in our communities. Even in the rural areas where farmers live, food as basic as fish, vegetables, and fruits come from afar. It comes from other towns, provinces, and even other islands. This makes nourishing food very expensive because it had to be trucked, shipped, or flown. Transporting food is very challenging because it requires crude oil, which the Philippines does not have, and it's purchased in the global market and traded in dollars. For example, in Capiz, a rice and corn farming province, where we have community partners, the average cost of lunch in a village, a bowl of food, is 20 pesos or 40 cents US dollars. The vegetables and protein that comes with that lunch comes from nearby villages and provinces. In Coron, now one of the most popular tourist destinations and where we also have community partners, the average cost of lunch is 3 times that. It's 60 cents, or sorry, it's 60 pesos or $1.20. Why? Because the vegetables in Coron are shipped from Manila and Mindoro, an island that requires a day's journey by boat. Now, 40 cents a meal in Capiz or $1.20 a meal in Coron may be inexpensive to you and me if we are earning dollars. However, for the farmers and fisher folks who live in the area and earn an average of $3 to $4 a day, this is quite untenable. Because for an average family of 5, families in Capiz will have to spend 30% of their daily income towards lunch. While in Coron, they will have to pretty much spend their entire daily income just to feed their family one lunch. There's no wonder that Coron and Palawan, which mostly depends on fishing and tourism, and where vegetables are shipped in, have the highest malnutrition rates in the country. How did we farm in the past? Well, my grandparents were farmers, and when they used to farm, there were at least 4 things that grew in one rice paddy. There was rice, fish, ducks, and vegetables all around. My grandparents harvested all of these products once a year. They shared and sold what they couldn't consume or store. Farmers in villages during that time had a complete dinner plate with vegetables, protein, and rice. Malnutrition was not widespread, and my grandparents had at least 4 revenue items. This holistic form of farming is naturally sustainable because what is an output in one, like manure of fish and ducks, becomes an input or compost for the rice and vegetables. It's a closed cycle. Excuse me. So why did farmers stop growing food that they eat? Well, the lure of higher harvest, bad policy, pesticides, and monocropping. So farming drastically changed in the 70s. After the Vietnam War, when the US chemical companies had to repurpose their DDT into pesticides and market it broadly. Philippines is a former US colony and is a natural dumping ground or market. And this coincided with the Philippine government's Green Revolution, or Masagana policy, which promoted pesticide use. Marcos's Masagana policy wanted to address a rice shortage in the early 70s. They addressed this by having Erie develop a hybrid grain that crossed a high-yielding rice grain from Indonesia and a short stalk variety from Taiwan that can support the heavy head. A grain that promises to double yield is a miracle and was so seductive. Increasing harvest is so important because many small hectare farmers rent their land. They pay rent in the form of a percentage of harvest. So it was a win-win for both farmer and landowner. It did double the yield. Between the 1960s and the 1980s, yield rose from 1.4 to 2.5 metric tons per hectare. The problem with this rice grain, unbeknownst to many farmers, is that it requires intensive irrigation, plenty of fertilizer, and chemical pesticides to flourish. It also did not do well in areas where there is heavy monsoons and flooding. But the pesticide used is literally a killer. The first problem with pesticides is that it's toxic. It's lethal and leads to monocropping. As you all know, it kills all the necessary indigenous microorganisms that plants need to uptake critical elements like nitrogen, potassium, calcium, and others for its growth. And it renders the soil, a growing medium, dead. Excuse me. pesticides also killed all the frogs, the beneficial insects, fish, and indigenous plants that make for a balanced ecology, and what enabled farmers to create their own compost and maintain good biomass. I'm sorry. Excuse me 1 second.
Are you okay? Jay, would you need a short break? Or maybe we can ask Idian to continue.
Hello.
Maybe Ayesha just needs a drink of water.
Yeah,
Yes, sorry. I apologize for that.
No,
She's
no
recovering
problem. Yeah.
from.
Yeah, she just probably needs a
are
drink.
you okay? Are you okay? Okay, I think
Yeah.
you're muted, Aisha.
Oh my gosh, I had a coughing fit. Sorry about that.
It's all right. I hope you have some water, Ayesha. Do you
I
have some
did.
water
I
with
got
you?
some.
Okay, good. Great.
I got
Okay,
some.
okay.
Please,
Okay.
you don't mind, give me 1 second.
Yeah,
I,
okay.
I am, as Oat said, I am still recovering from a cough, and at this time of night, I get a coughing fit.
Okay.
So it's just right on time. For those folks who don't know, I'm calling in from New York City.
Where it
So
was,
just to continue, the other problem that's really bad about pesticides is it resulted in farmers only being able to farm one crop and being dependent on only one product, one revenue stream, and one market. Right now, close to 70% of farmers in the Philippines are monocroppers. And because farmers no longer can make their own compost, farmers became dependent on buying all of their inputs, the fertilizer, the herbicides, the pesticides, just for the growth of one crop. These inputs are imported into the village and made by foreign chemical companies. Even though there is now domestic production, these inputs are still expensive for farmers today. This leads us to the second problem of synthetic farming and pesticide use. It's increased production costs and debt. Marcos Masagana program created a credit program that lent farmers funds to buy these inputs. The problem with debt, and I'm now talking as a former investment banker, is that it is hard to service and pay off if one only has one product to sell that yields low margins. And it's also very difficult when the cost of your inputs are in US dollars and is subject to volatile global capital markets and inflation, while your output is priced in peso and has mostly been declining in price. Finally, it is especially difficult when your product is highly vulnerable to weather. As you know, the Philippines before global warming experiences at least 20 typhoons per year. Third, pesticides make farmers sick. It gives them respiratory illnesses, skin diseases, and cancer. The treatment for these, they either funded from their meager income or borrowed from others. Fourth, pesticides depleted groundwater and saturated rice lands with chemicals, which eventually now has led to lower rice yields. This is not unique to rice farmers. As soon as pesticides doubled harvest in rice farms, pesticide use was quickly taken up in farming other crops. So how come farmers were not able to get out of this bind? Boils down to monocropping, subsistent income, debt, one buyer, and no one investing in them. With many farmers in some form of debt, their recourse is to keep purchasing just the next generation of synthetic chemicals and seeds, which are now all, for the most part, GMO. Also, farmers currently make on average $3 to $4 a day. Many have to earn this income on a daily basis. As we laid out, as I said earlier, it is already insufficient to provide food. As such, there's no way for farmers to set aside discretionary funds to plant something else and develop another market. They're barely surviving. Therefore, they can only put their effort and time and will only plant a crop for which there is a ready market. In any given village, there's only one buyer of rice or corn. These buyers and traders get to set the price. For example, in the past 5 years, in just the village of Sibari 1, where my grandparents' farm is located, the price per kilo of harvested rice has gone down from 15 pesos per kilo to 10 pesos per kilo last year, while in the middle of the pandemic. Well, with the buyer having leverage over price of the cash crop, farmers are really stuck and unable to raise their income. Currently, to buy a kilo of eggplant, bitter gourd, or ampalaya, mung bean, is 60 pesos. So a rice farmer basically has to sell 6 kilos of their own inventory of rice in order to buy just 1 kilo of nourishing vegetables. This is why hunger and malnourishment is growing in the countryside. At ARC, we partner with farmers and fisherfolk who want to secure their food, their health, their kids' schooling, and a self-sustaining future. Our partnership started 12 years ago with our 5-cent or 2 peso and 50 cent school lunch. It is the only lunch in the world that parents contribute to day one and fully fund on their own after 3 years. It solved malnutrition, it got kids back to school, it bought 100% from parents and the community, creating a whole new market. After serving 1 million lunches with 16 communities at 2 peso and 50 cents, we were ready to share it throughout the Philippines and beyond. Then the pandemic happened. Schools closed, farmers couldn't sell their harvest. Village captains were scared that hunger would rise and strike would follow. So we quickly pivoted. With them, we created and launched Feedback last June. Feedback is a vegetable exchange. It's open to everyone in the community. It takes place once a week for 8 to 12 weeks in a central open air area in every neighborhood. Because it's a guaranteed market, it inspires families to join, farm in their backyards, and to share 3 of their favorite vegetables in exchange for their fair share of over 20 vegetables contributed by their neighbors. Participants' vegetable contributions are valued. For every 50 pesos or $1 worth of vegetables contributed, participants get 1 raffle ticket and a chance to win a prize. This fun, along with connecting with their friends and neighbors in a socially distanced way, has drawn the participants to come back each week until the program ends. And the results are astounding. The communities who did Feedback solved hunger in just 5 weeks. For the first time, families are eating food from their backyards. Farmers have diverse crops, and fisherfolk have gardens. Families were generating excess, which they brought to the exchange, sold to each other and to neighboring villages and towns. And because the communities led and ran the program on their own, it united them and made everyone feel proud, hopeful, and happy. Today, since June of last year until now, and thanks to visionary partners in both the private and public sector, we are on track to partnering with 28 communities in 6 provinces and transforming close to 27,000 lives. Of these, 8 have graduated, 3 are about to graduate, and another 8 is in Negros Oriental about to start their exchange, and the last 8 in Iloilo are currently finalizing their commitment. Our growth from last year is 5 times. Of the rural communities that have graduated, I'm happy to report that in just 8 to 12 weeks, they secured nearly 90% of at-risk families. They exchanged 81 types of vegetables, weighing 71 tons in total and valued at over 2.4 million pesos. I'm also happy to report that the impact is sustainable and long-lasting. Those who graduated a year ago continue to plant, be healthy, and continue to grow their vegetable businesses. For Trasiano, which is a rice and corn farming community in Capiz, this is now their 2nd year of no hunger. A huge change from having a hunger season year after year for decades. 94% of the participants continued to plant. Over 80% planted 6 to 8, continue to plant 6 to 8 vegetables, and over 60% grew their vegetable ventures that they started during Feedback, which now account for 20 to 25% of their annual income. For this impact, the run rate investment of our champions is $15 per family or $5,000 per community. This is matched one-to-one by ARC's board and separately by the communities who create new economic value that is worth 11 times our social investment. Now I'm going to ask Ode to share with you what makes feedback ecological and how do we engage with our partner communities that inspire behavior change.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ayesha. So what's in the program that makes feedback ecological? Well, first, families are growing vegetables organically and naturally without synthetic chemicals. For example, we help families relearn traditional ways of making compost in the home using inputs they can easily source from the community. And this is just one example in many. We are also helping them to solve for pest management in an organic manner. Next, families are planting vegetables that they actually want to eat or like to eat. And because every household will have a different preference, this leads to a neighborhood and community growing a diverse set of vegetables. Next, because families are planting in the backyard and now supplying the food needs of the community, we are creating a whole new local food economy. This is an offset that further prevents the carbon footprint of having to transport food from far away, as Ayesha mentioned. And last, solving malnutrition and creating new income makes families and communities happy, healthy, secure, and investing in each other with a path to create a sustainable future. In this environment, we prevent environment degradation, like what happens when people are hungry and desperate for money and food. They sometimes turn to burning of forests to make charcoal for selling or turn to overfishing for the fisher folk. But how do we engage our communities to create lasting behavior change and impact? So the secret to our program's success is first and foremost is that we partner with communities. Unlike other companies, we engage with them as partners and not just as beneficiaries. So we truly believe in their agency and ideas to bring about the change they dream and their ability to innovate their way to solving problems. In line with this, we also serve simply as catalysts and followers, while it's the community themselves who lead. The community leads us by demonstrating their desire and not just willingness and determination to solve hunger and food security. In our program, village leaders get 100% buy-in from their mayors and the council, and then making them ready to deploy their funds. The community then invests at least 50% of the total capital needed for the program and executes the program on their own with ARC as there for guidance and support. As catalysts, we also give the communities what they truly need, which is the belief and confidence in their own capacity, and inject the least amount of capital and resources while still aiming with the community for maximum output, impact, and return. So an important part also of making the program long-lasting and valued for the community is that we really get everyone involved. Everyone has an investment in this program. So we make sure to involve the community leaders, the community participants itself. Every stakeholder counts, every stakeholder has a commitment, and every stakeholder's ideas must be heard. And in line with that, we also are very careful to listen to our partners. They know and understand their problems better than anyone else, so we believe that they have the best solutions to these. Instead of coming in with rigid models and standard operating procedures, we like to co-design and problem solve together. As an example, in Negros Oriental, in one of the islands we're working with for Wave 5, we are prepping for La Nina, which could happen anytime between now and March, which brings large amounts of rain and unbelievable flooding. So this really destroys the gardens and the farming produce of our families. So instead of telling communities what to do, we created an exciting contest with prizes that will be given to the individual and community that comes up with the best floating garden design. So this way, it's them who are innovating to solve their problems. And when we solve, we like to solve with love. And what that means is being open to failure and forgiveness. We guide the communities to dream big and to create a plan to achieve their dreams. And a part of this is creating a safe environment for stumbles and failures, because we can't be perfect the first time ever. So we make sure that everyone gets to share their grievances and frustrations. And if that's so on our parts, we are there to first apologize where we err. And we forgive and rebuild trust when partners really want to create impact together. From our program, we also create a sure market. Over the past 12 years, we heard that all parents and communities leaders share in the same dream, that they want their kids to be healthy, to finish school, and to have new income to start a better life. We also understand that they are solving for day-to-day living, and so they can't afford to do something different unless there is a ready market. Otherwise, it's just too risky. That's why ARC Lunch and ARC Feedback are guaranteed markets that inspire families to plant in their backyards and generate excess vegetables for sale. Next, and this is where we get to the fun side of the program, starting something new can be challenging and daunting. And so structural elements that we incorporate are meant to make it easy for families to do. In feedback, families only commit to 3 vegetables, because the more vegetables you have to grow, the more tedious the task becomes. So we commit to at least just 3 vegetables. This can be easily grown in their backyards. And we share easy and cheap methods of growing these vegetables, controlling pests, and weatherproofing. So we also make the exchange itself near their homes, because we want it accessible to everyone. Because imagine you're carrying 4 to 6 kilos of vegetables for longer than 20 minutes. And if you try that here, you'll just see it's really tiring, and it can become a hassle and a barrier to people actually coming and participating in the exchange. And last, we make it fun for everyone, because life is too hard and short, and we really value everyone's time and effort. So we want to make problem solving fun, unforgettable, and a worthwhile experience for everyone. In the exchanges, we incorporate Filipino culture favorites like fiestas or festivities and raffle contests. And as you can see here, we can also incorporate fun stuff like dancing, which a lot of the communities also love to do, or fashion shows using the vegetables. And especially now in the middle of a pandemic, when people lost jobs and are really looking for that sense of community, that being together and just enjoying life, these are what really draw people to join the program. It's families who determine and decide what the raffle price is, because they know themselves what people would really love to have. And so it becomes a really big appeal or attract. And while community leaders and the program managers create games, dances, and fun contests. So yes, that's how we really would like to make the program memorable and fun for the whole community, so that it's something that they would really cherish onwards. And so with that, I would like to also call back Ayesha to brainstorm in our next plans.
You're muted, Aisha.
Great.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, now I'm unmuted. Thank you. Thank you, Ode. And thank you, Annika, for helping us with the slides. So now I want to talk to you about the situation currently. Because of the pandemic, there are over 2 billion people globally who are food insecure. And in the Philippines, hunger is now at crisis levels. Feedback is one of 2 food security solutions, and the only one that is self-sustaining, that the government and a consortium of corporations and foundations are endorsing. In the next 2 years, we want to share feedback to 150 communities and transform 250,000 lives. We want to create a toolkit, or we call it a playbook, that will enable rural communities in the Philippines and other parts of Asia and the world to be food secure on their own. And we want to upskill and link graduated communities to new end markets. Lastly, we also want to measure our impact and the community sustainability beyond a year. We want to do this with you. So I would like to partner with you and change the future. And now I would like to open it up for question and answer, or
Yes, thanks Ish, for the presentation, and also to Oda as well, no, for the wonderful presentation. In fact, there are already a few comments in the chat. No? So, and just to say that they're very inspired, no, by your presentation. So from Lilibet Diapera, thank you for sharing what you've been doing. So inspiring. And from Malu Ibita, one of our faculty members here at Ateneo, given that the agriculture is a big factor in climate change. This is great. Lots of SDGs achieved. No? There's a question here from Shafi Nur Islam. Is there any government policy for farmers' product marketing in the national and international market? And maybe, or can the farmers actually also try selling their produce in the international market? So I don't know. Maybe that's the first question. Do you encourage also your partners, partner farmers, to sell their produce in the domestic or international market?
So with feedback, what's really amazing is that even while the program is it's just started, you know, like they're just beginning the exchange, we already hear by week 2 or week 3 of the exchange that the participants are already selling their excess produce to their neighbors, to literally the next barangay over. They're creating like supply lines. Like by the time that 8 to 12 week exchange period ends, that supply line is already fully formed. So we are finding that the participants in feedback are naturally entrepreneurial, and they're already creating markets for their own excess. Shafi, to answer your second question, your question about is there government policy to help farmers market their products? Yes, there are governmental programs. I think to me the biggest thing that is a challenge is it's kind of siloed, and it would be really great if there was more cohesion in how both different government agencies work, but also as government agencies and NGOs work, and the private sector. I'd like to think that we've actually proven through feedback that we have been able to link all 3. So just to give you a sense, in wave 4, which is a wave that serves semi-urban communities. This is our first pilot in semi-urban communities. The MAO, the Municipal Agriculture Office there, in addition to providing seeds, which all of the municipal offices in every wave has done, they're already so engaged in us piloting a venture program with the community. And so there's already, through feedback, we're using it as a platform for there to be collaborations with the local government, with national government, which we've leveraged, and then, also with the private sector, because we are now wanting to link those, just using those communities in Laguna, in Wave 4, and in Rizal. We're now wanting to connect them to end markets that are corporate partners and other foundations.
Okay, thanks, Isha. So you have a platform, no, for your partners in the local communities to engage also with the government, and also that improves also in the sense that there's sense of empowerment, no, in terms
Yeah,
of what they're doing. So
yeah.
yeah, so
The,
that that's great.
Randy, there is actually a second part to that question that I didn't get to answer, which is the international part of it.
Yes.
I think the first thing that we need to just focus on is really making sure that the families and the communities are food secure, because that's still a big problem in the Philippines. And that's also a problem in a lot of places in the world. I am a believer that food, like water, should be local, because if food is local and it's not traveling, the nutritional value is high, it tastes better, and it's healthier for the people. There are aspects of food production that can be preserved. And then that I think would be great for export. You know, I think there's certain specialty and niche food that would be good for that. And of course, like for the Philippines, understandably, it's, you know, it's a country that is heavily agricultural, exports a lot of our fruits and vegetables. I think I'm not quite sure if the current situation is the right situation. I don't think it's equitable, and it's actually it's what's creating more monocropping and more pesticide use in the country.
Thanks a lot, no, for the answers. There's several other questions in the chat, no, and also posted in the question site. So one question is, do you work also with coastal communities as well? I mean, as well, or with fisher folk?
Yeah.
And maybe you can share briefly some of the results that you had.
Absolutely. The fisher folks have been so, I mean, just like the farming communities that we've worked with, the fisher folks have been so inspiring. Because, you know, most fisher folks don't really garden or farm. And so when they start the program, maybe 10 to 20% of the population gardens. And, you know, we've gotten really high penetration rates in fishing communities. We even had the very first community that said yes to feedback, that said, let's get this done. They were like 2 weeks or 3 weeks ahead of the other communities, was a fishing community. And, you know, when there was, it's called Bogtong in Busuanga. And when there was a lot of talk and write up about community pantries, we got a text and an email from one of our champions in the community, who happens to be a village council member. And his name is Sir Archie. And Sir Archie basically said that because of feedback, Bogtong, the community, has no need for community pantries, because the families that are at risk are now producing food in their backyards, and they're now producing an excess that they no longer need to go to Coron Town to buy food. So when they do go to Coron Town, it's now to sell the produce, not to sell the food. So it's you know, that story is also replicated in 4 other coastal or fishing communities that we partnered with. And one of them called Santo Niño, they're the ones that was also inspired by feedback to create their own talipapa for the very first time. And they were also the first ones to really solidify their supply line, where they're supplying to an island community early on in the exchange, and continue to do so until today. So yeah, it's really transformed the lives of fisher folks, women who, you know, in a fishing community are not as engaged in the economic activity, because mostly the men are fishing, now are basically have new activity and new income. We've also learned in one fishing community where there was gambling as an issue, that it actually closed down the gambling joint, and the people who ran the gambling joint joined feedback, because, you know, I think it started because of idleness. So and that fishing community, it's called Torda, it's in Coron. In week 7, they came back to us and said, you know, we're now producing so much in excess that we're just gifting to each other. We're not even selling to each other. And we want to work with you, ARC, to organize us so that way we can supply all of the hotels in Coron. And we said, yeah, deal. That's what we want. You know, so there's like a huge transformation in lifestyle, in mentality, and yeah, just, and it's the entire community.
Okay, great to hear. I mean, that you're working with different types of communities. Another set of questions actually listed in the chat, no, and also posted by the listeners here, no, are do you maybe could you give some indication of the nutritional impacts that you've had? For example, reduction in maybe malnutrition or maybe improvement in weights, and also are you open generally also to providing the excess food to communities that have been affected by disasters, maybe flood-prone communities? Do donate also? Do the communities donate also some of the food to these disaster-prone communities?
So oh my gosh, I'm sorry, it's the late hour here. I forgot the first one. Can you repeat it again?
No, sorry about that. Just an indication of the impacts.
Oh, the malnutrition.
I don't know.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Aisha. Yeah.
So for malnutrition, we have seen malnutrition drop substantially, and we hear it from from our partner communities that have graduated. There's one that I wanna bring back again, Santo Niño, because they graduated in February of this year, and I want to say 3 months ago or 4 months ago, they won an additional prize from their LGU, from the municipality. And they won a prize because they had the biggest drop in malnutrition in that municipality. So the impact from feedback, which ended, in 12 weeks for them, and in February of this year, continues to come. On the next question, you asked about whether the communities are providing access to disaster-prone areas or areas that have experienced disaster. They haven't yet, because all of the access is really supplied to the local markets. And thus far, since we started feedback, there hasn't been a disaster near those partner communities. Yes, there's been a lot of typhoons, there's been flooding. They themselves experienced it. They had to rebuild their gardens, and get back up on production. But what the communities have done is they do a pay forward. And so communities that have graduated, they send seeds to new communities that join.
Okay, thanks. Thanks again, Isha. Well, the next set of questions here are related to relationships or partnerships. So I think if the participants here come from the academic community. So what types of partnerships are you open to these to the teachers, or to the universities or schools? Are you open also to partnerships also with local business if they want to source also the products coming from your communities? Would that also be possible? And also individuals, no? So sorry if I clumped them together. Are you open to partnerships with individuals to do volunteer work as well? So it's the academe, business, and also individuals as volunteers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes to all of that. I'll get started. I'm gonna ask Adrian and Ode to also chime in. In terms of partnerships with the academia, my gosh, one of the things that we want to do immediately with you is one, to help us develop a new survey and new metrics for us to now measure our impact and our sustainability beyond a first year of graduation for a partner community. That's something that we now want to measure. We want your help in developing that. And also we want someone in the academe to do the independent study. So that way, you know, we can have we have the ability to take insight from a third party and actually improve the program and not be biased by it. So we want that, first off. The second is there's a lot of folks here in academia and also in the private sector in creating sustainable ventures. We're about to launch that next year. Would love to work with, if it's a sustainability development class that wants to partner with us in developing ventures with a community, we would love that. And then I'm going to ask Adrian and Ode to also speak about the other partnerships that are absolutely open and what we want to bring on board.
Yeah,
Thanks, Aisha.
I would echo that. That we are very, very open to all sorts of partnership. Yes, so I see a lot of questions asking how we can get in touch with us. So we'll put in our email. There you go, Ode. And we would love to partner, yes, with both with students, perhaps in a either through, as Aisha mentioned, through social ventures, which we think is a branch of operations that will really be growing throughout the year as feedback solves for supply. The next step is to solve for demand, and that's where we see these partnerships being extremely crucial to the sustainability of the communities. And yes, just to piggyback on what Ayash said, the impact evaluation is something that's very important to us, to ARC. It's something that we want to be a pioneer in. Sorry, Ayash, I'm putting us in the spot, but that's how I feel that I want
No,
to
we
be
do.
pioneers on how the impact can be evaluated, and really set a path of making sure that we're doing out and we're achieving what we set out to do, and we definitely would love the help of experts on that. That I believe where the academia is at the forefront on. Ode, if you'd like to add anything else.
Yeah, no, but also related because it's one of Adrian's dreams to have a task force, so we could ask for advice also in this impact tracking. So we're looking for people who we could bring in and consult with in these kinds of things.
Right. And in terms of companies who want to partner with us, either in championing a community, in co-investing alongside a community, or in being an end market for the community, absolutely a yes. We would also be embracing partnerships with individuals who, again, want to champion us, introduce us to their networks. This is our coming out party. So yes to all of that.
Okay, thanks a lot, Isha, Ode, and Adrian for the responses that you gave. I think you've inspired a lot of our participants this afternoon. I mean, to think about ways of collaborating with you. I'll just take the opportunity at this point to ask our participants. The next part of the program actually will be workshop breakout room. So if we have time for our participants to discuss your program, and I think from the discussions later, there might be a few more questions that may be raised, or maybe a few ideas in terms of partnerships that can be also brought into form. So thanks again to all the speakers, and can we give them a warm round of applause? I think if we have an interaction function, we can type the applause or a heart as an icon. So thanks a lot for this afternoon's presentation. I'll turn over the breakout rooms, the instructions for the breakout rooms to my colleague, the AUN-EEC, the Institute of Sustainability, to Jean Ardelesa. So Jean, can you give the instructions for this afternoon's breakout?
Yes, thank you so much, Sir Randy, and thank you very much to Ms. Ayesha, Ode, and to Adrian for your sharing and for your insights during the Q&A. Unfortunately, that's all the time we had for the open forum, but the site for the questions is still open. So if our friends from ARC could still answer your questions from there, that would also be great. Before we move to the next segment, may we invite everyone to please turn on your videos, and we will take screenshots of the gallery. So this is our group photo portion before we move to the next segment. Please kindly indulge us. Okay, so there are, from my end, about 5 galleries, and I'll just be taking screenshots. All right, so please hold your smiles. Okay, and on to the next. All right, to the third. Fourth. And the last. Okay, thank you so much for turning on your videos. Okay, so now moving to the breakout sessions, but first, may we request Ms. Anika to show the guidelines?
Okay, so for the breakout session, we will be dividing you into 2 main large groups. So Adrian and I will be managing 1 room each, and we will have a specific problem to solve together or brainstorm together. So room 1 will be solving for how to make our family's gardens more resilient to heavy rains and flooding, while room 2 will be talking about measuring social impact. And we will be given 30 minutes to brainstorm all together. So we highly encourage you to be fun and daring in your ideas. And after the 30 minutes are up, we will ask 2 people from each group to share their ideas. But we would like to invite people to email your ideas to us. So we showed our email a while ago, but we can send it again, because we want to use the winning ideas to share with our communities, and these ideas will get the chance to win a prize, a secret prize that we will mention in the future. So with that, maybe we could head on to the breakout room sessions, and we will explain the brainstorming further in each of those sessions.
Thank you so much, Ode. Our tech team will now send you to the breakout rooms randomly. Have fun, and we will see you back here in the main room after 30 minutes or at around 3:30 p.m. For those who are still in the main room, may we know whether you have received the the invitation or the notification to move to a room, to a breakout room? Please let us know whether you are encountering any technical difficulties. Okay, I think everyone is back. So welcome back, everyone. Uh, so it's this segment of the webinar. We hope you have already identified members of your group to share about your experience or about what you have discussed and brainstormed in your own breakout rooms. So first, may we hear from maybe one or two representatives from the first group from room one with Miss Ode as the facilitator.
Okay, so I would specifically like to request Miss Annabella Tulin to share with us one. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to finish, but Yes, she had a lot of ideas to share, and we'd be very happy to all hear it.
Yes, please. You're unmuted. I will ask you. I will.
The initiatives that you have done for young people like you. So actually I've been engaged in community research for the past 30 or 40 years. You know, and one of the stories that is worth noting is that I was sharing with the group that with regards to some plants which has medicinal importance, we are part of the DOST funded research on the Tuklas Lunas Center here in the Visayas for diabetic research. And we tried to studied about 140 plus indigenous plant species, which has some potential for diabetes. And we found out that there are three plants that really stood up. You know, that is our alubati, the red one. And this can be easily planted in the community. And then we have the kamyas and then the sweet basil. So although we are applying for patent about this and we are trying to do mass commercial production, but we studied this thoroughly. We try to determine the anti-diabetic potential of all these tree plant species. And with regards to helping the community cope up with the impact of climate change, like for instance, with continuous rainy season, what we did, we introduced the use of protected structures in the community. And so actually we encourage the farmers to use these cheap bamboos, and then we cover it with plastic. And we tried to compare the performance of the crop under the open fields and those under protected structures. And we found out that the farmers were able to increase their yield when they are in the protected structures, because the plants would be protected from insect and disease infestation. And most importantly, they can plant out season crops, especially during rainy areas, because they are not exposed to the open field. So we have projects in some communities here in Leyte, especially in the vegetable producing areas. And with regards to root crops, because I'm also employed at the Philippine Root Crop Research and Training Center, so one of the crop that we are promoting, especially in disaster prone areas, is sweet potato. Now, because sweet potato could be easily grown in all types of soil, and we need only 4 months to harvest the crops. So during Typhoon Yolanda, when the whole island of Leyte was really devastated, the first crop that we introduced to the farmers is to plant sweet potato in their own backyard. So that's it. So this is very good. And now what we are doing here is the city government of Baybay is helping us promote it by building a sweet potato processing plant, so that the farmers would have a ready market of their produce. And also, I have the chance to work as a visiting professor in the South Pacific, which is the countries that are most vulnerable to climate change. And there they introduce, with regards to food security, every household, they planted this, we call this breadfruit. No, I don't know if you're familiar with that. That is their staple food, their breadfruit and taro. So every homes there have breadfruit and taro, and that would help the people. And for their fish, they're okay with sardines, and they have fresh fish from the sea. So that is their answer to food security. And they encourage planting different varieties of crops in their own backyard. So we haven't practiced here in the Philippines. No, that's just like what you are introducing with your art. So people shared vegetables in the village. Basically, you can just harvest there, because in each village, they are all relatives. No, they have and it's very amazing. They have all kinds of vegetables grown in surrounding their houses. And also they always see to it that they have this breadfruit. And taro. So taro is the major staple in the South Pacific, especially in Samoa, where I stayed there for 2 years. And so it's very amazing. And they also have an island wherein there's no carbon footprints, because they don't allow any fertilizers to enter the island, and no vehicles. So everybody are walking, or just you can go around the island there are some islands that just have to walk. So they prevented really the use of, gasoline or no zero carbon footprints. And there you would be amazed that the people are, nobody is stealing vegetables, no, because they have it abundantly, unlike here in the Philippines. So they live peacefully with limited, let's say, amenities, but they're happy. They don't even have windows. Their windows are open. Their houses are open. You can see where they are sleeping, and yet nobody would steal inside their houses. So it's a very good culture that's worth emulating here. No? That's how the South Pacific people live. So they are trying to combat climate change because they are the most vulnerable nations to climate change. So that's it. So we could plant kamote. We're promoting here at BSU, kamote and jackfruit. So we are now developing ice cream from sweet potato, and imagine maybe you have seen they're serving also this sweet potato fries.
Yeah.
In Manila,
Yes.
especially in what is that? The famous chain of restaurants that are serving it, and we also have this. So the fresh kamote also, we are now promoting the purple kamote because these are very rich in anthocyanin.
Yeah. So the importance
And
really of
this could be
food
easily planted in home gardens in the cities. No, in the condominium, you can plant it in pots, and after 4 months, you can harvest, let's say, 3 to 5 kilos of kamote in your own houses. No need to go to the market, so you can share it with your fellow. So if you encourage, it's also a good idea. And we can encourage this also in urban areas, especially among the condo dwellers. They share vegetables, they share root crops together once they harvest it. I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Annabella. Really, really exciting also to hear about all the produce and the products they're making out of it.
So you can come to our university, Ode, if you're interested.
Yeah.
If you know Cherry Atilano, she is our alumni.
Ah.
Yeah.
I don't know her personally, but I follow her on Instagram.
Yeah, she studied agriculture here in our university.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Okay.
much, Annabella. Do you have another member from your group who would like to share?
Well, I would like to call on Miss Marilu also to share her really unique and different approached ideas. Oh, sorry, ma'am, you're on mute.
Yeah, good afternoon to all. I am not an agriculturist. I am a theologian, but this is a very, very long-standing advocacy. And so I live in a province where we had to change our house from being a one-level house into a multi-story house because of the flooding. We are just like about 1.5 kilometers away from the seashore, and I am really very much concerned about these changes in what's going on. So yeah, I salute the kamote, the sweet potato initiative, and my dad used to also encourage people to help plant mangroves. So I also suggest that for responding to this problem. But I also thought that it might be also good for the people to learn more about what are the flood-resistant plants and vegetables that could be done, that could be planted, so that it can be seasonal. I don't know a lot, but in my experience in the province, we used to do the one for the kamote and even for the kamote and kahoy, because you just need to
Cassava, no? They're very good.
cassava, yes, cassava,
Yeah.
because when there is a storm that comes, even if there will be no leaves, the cassava continues to grow, so there is no problem, and it's really very, very good. And in our province, there is a special way of preparing even the cassava leaves or the kamote tops as vegetables as well, not only the root crop. But I don't have the know-how, but I've been very I've been thinking a lot, just because in my experience in what I have learned from my friends in Europe and in the US, they are able to produce or to transform the vegetables that they have in summertime into dried vegetables. And I hope that there are engineers who can think of the less costly way of drying our produce for our farmers. Because as I have shared earlier in the sharing, in the first part of this discussion, it was so heartbreaking to see tons of tomatoes being thrown just because there was not enough buyers. And I was thinking, oh my God, what a loss of vitamin C, what a loss of energy. Really, food wastage is one of the major causes for climate change too. And I was thinking, in Italy, they could have made there a lot of tomato sauce, a lot of tomato soup, a lot of sun-dried tomatoes. And it is just heartbreaking that there is no in between. And I am hoping that there are people who can help teach the farmers how to make the produce not only the raw product, but that they can have the knowledge as well to preserve it if there is just an abundance, because it's a pity that they all go to waste. So it sells so expensively, this dried kamote, these dried vegetables. And I was wondering if we can do this and it can be done in a less costly manner, we can use this, and then there can be a government linkage with the SWD, so that these dried vegetables will not be very difficult to transport because they will be light to the typhoon ravaged places, so that the food that the government give as evacuation food will not just be noodles and sardines, but they will be supplemented with vegetables and other nutrients that the people in these typhoon ravaged areas really need, so that they will not be exposed to illness during the time when they are in the evacuation centers, and then they will have variety of food and nutrients. So I hope that there can be an uptake. I am not an engineer, but I'm really hoping that there can be something that can be done so that we reduce food waste, we increase nutrition. So a lot of SDGs will be achieved. Thank you
So much, Ma'am Marilu.
Thank you, ma'am. And with that, I guess we could give the floor now to Adrian's breakout session to give time also for them to share their ideas.
Yeah, I'll be doing the sum up for our group. I'll just very quickly just go through it. So we wanted to brainstorm on the different ways we can measure ARC's impact and its and feedback's impact on the communities that we partner with. And we got a lot of great ideas. Please email us after so we can properly credit you for it and possibly work with you on it on fleshing it out. For example, we've been mightily focused on program metrics and yes, the economic value of it, and the direct health impact through malnutrition or family health. But we had great ideas, for example, of measuring. It was brought up of measuring, for example, the mental well-being of the communities. Can that be measured? Can there be a baseline for that and say, they are now in a better place afterwards in terms of their sense of self-worth, their self-esteem as a community, in terms of the leaders, their sense of solidarity. There was also a fantastic idea on measuring the leadership skills. How has the program which requires to develop the leaders within the community, can that be measured? Can we measure how many leaders have been developed afterwards? Have they developed leadership skills? There's also an idea on measuring how the community's perception, if their attitude and their behavior towards their environment has changed. So that's something we look at a lot of behavioral aspects, but particularly in terms of their attitude and behavior towards the environment. I think we just assumed there would be. And we we took it for granted, like, yeah, well, they're planting more, they're caring for the gardens more, but we haven't actually measured it. So I think that's very interesting if we can measure it, if it increases environmental awareness, if it increases overall environmental health. And then lastly, just before we close, there was a idea to measure aspiration, which I think is very interesting. You know, I was explaining, and I was saying that, yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it, because Ode would know that when we partner with communities, the first thing we ask for them is, what are your dreams? And we ask each person who is part of the community, literally each one, to tell us what is your personal dream, so we understand them better and they feel invested in the program. So I think that would also be a great way to look at the ARC's impact. Have we changed the track of their aspirations towards a XYZ path? I don't know yet. And that's why we'll ask for help from everyone who is in this call. Please do reach out to us. We'd love to partner with you. As was mentioned earlier, we are forming several task forces or volunteer groups, and one of which that what we are focusing right now. In fact, right after, in 15 minutes, I have to jump off because I have to meet with a behavioral scientist to start fleshing out some of their impact evaluation ways. Please join the team. Please email us. Please be part of the team. We can work together. If you're a researcher, if you especially if you're a expert or have a lot of experience designing surveys or using impact evaluation tools, we'd love to work with you and figure out a win-win situation. And perhaps ARC can be a platform for your work as well. So thank you. That's it for me, Ode.
Thank you, Adrian. Really exciting, and yes, really looking forward to um, getting people we could consult to help us really measure our impact better and more thoroughly.
Yeah, so seeing from chat, even there are exchanges about existing technologies for drying fruits, and even talking about partnering or tapping various agencies, national agencies here in the Philippines or in your own country if you're not from the Philippines, for these technologies. And a good comment here also from Ms. Marilu, wondering whether ARC would be interested in the worldview, including religious perspectives on environmental response and in the dreams that they have. So this has been a very interesting discussion. Thank you very much, everyone. So so we're now at the closing portion of the webinar. So at this point, we'd like to thank once again Ms. O'Sullivan, Mr. Adrian Bonifacia, and Ms. Ayesha Velayu for giving us so many new ideas and insights this afternoon. Thank you as well to Dr. Asunta Cuyageng, AUN-EEC Executive Director, for opening the webinar, to Dr. Randy Tuanyo, the Program Manager for SDGs of the Ateneo Institute of Sustainability, for introducing our speakers and for moderating the open forum. This event would also not be possible without the support of our Campus Events Management Office. So we'd like to thank Mr. Chris Castillo, Mr. Jack de Torrentegi, Ms. Aleli Diaz, and Mr. June Asense. And of course, to all of you, thank you very much for your participation in this webinar. We hope you have gained fresh ideas and engaging communities towards food security and in cultivating a sustainable lifestyle. Please don't forget to accomplish our evaluation form. We will be posting the link in just a bit in chat, and requests for e-certificates will also be coursed through the form. Before we close, may we ask everyone once again to please turn on their videos for a quick screenshot, so we have a gallery view of everyone before we end. I think not everyone turned on their cameras earlier, so we hope everyone will be able to turn on their cameras at this point so we can take a photo of everyone. All right, so just waiting for a few more. Okay, so I'll now be taking screenshots. Please hold your smile. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. And last. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that is it for the webinar on cultivating a sustainable lifestyle. We are posting the link to the evaluation form. Please don't forget to accomplish. The form will only be accepting responses until this Friday, the 3rd of December. So here is the link now in chat. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good rest of the day and rest of the week.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Jean.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.